All right, welcome to Talkin' Investing. I am Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today, I want to do our daily Bitcoin and Bitcoin miner update. So Bitcoin had a little bit of a rough weekend and then was kind of sideways today. I want to see what effect that had on the Bitcoin miner. So we'll take a look at the Bitcoin miner big board as always, and then we will take a look at the Bitcoin charts, and then we'll look at a few indicators that I think are showing where we are headed. So I'm going to let you know what I think, and then you guys can drop a comment below and let me know what you think. And if you have not yet subscribed, we cover Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners all the time on this channel, so please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. And if everybody would please smash the like button, it helps the channel out a lot and it gets this video out to more people, so I really appreciate it. All right, let's talk Bitcoin. I will first go to the Bitcoin big board. The market is closed, so these are today's final numbers for the equities. Okay, you will see this was not good. Every Bitcoin miner on the board today was red, but they did vary. Some of them had not so bad days and some of them were a bit of a nightmare. So I just want to go through a few of the highlights and the lowlights. So noticeably, Cleanspark was only down 2.4%, and you're going to see Bitcoin over the weekend was down significantly more than that. So I think 6 or 7% once we get to the chart we'll see, but anything that did around that or better actually kept up with Bitcoin, and Cleanspark actually beat Bitcoin substantially. There were a few others. Gree was down 3.9%, Mawson was down 1.7%, so those seemed to outperform, but they were still all in the red. On the flip side of things, we have Core Scientific was down 17% today. So that is not like Core Scientific has been outperforming over the course of time, and this is some correction. They've actually been underperforming, and today was yet another day they were, I believe, the worst performer on the day. Bitfarms was down 12.5%. That was a miserable performance from Bitfarms, and they are getting near their lows again. Riot, which is one of the big players, that was down 10.8%. Marathon was down 8.2%. Hive was down 9.9%. Hut 8 was down about 8%. So you can see a lot of the rest of those were somewhere just a little bit, maybe 1.5 times what Bitcoin was. But there were a few that really got beat up. So I'm going to take a look at those later and see if there's anything going on with those, because two in particular that got hit the hardest today, Core Scientific and Bitfarms, do have one thing in common. So I want to go through that later as we look at those. Let's take a look at Bitcoin itself. Okay, this is Bitcoin on a 15-minute time scale. So this is zoomed in. You will see there's an orange line here as always. This is where the equities closed on Friday. So Bitcoin was at around 21,801 when the US equity markets closed on Friday. So you'll see Bitcoin went a little bit sideways for the next several hours, and then Saturday and Sunday you can see this was just downhill all weekend. There was downward pressure, and this was a pretty even slope all the way down until the middle of the night last night, and then from there on we were basically sideways. We did have a couple of blips, and including at the market open basically hit our high of the day 15 minutes into the US equity market opening up. And then we reverted back to where we were and kind of went up and down, but sideways for the rest of the day. So if I measure where Bitcoin was when we closed the equity markets on Friday to where it was when we closed the equity markets today, that was down 6.4% approximately. So you can see some of these Bitcoin miners that were down 6 or 7 or 8 or even 9%, that was fairly decent based on the performance of Bitcoin. There were just a few that really got hit hard today, but this did result in red from top to bottom for all the Bitcoin miners. Okay, so if we zoom out to the 4-hour time frame, this will show you a few of the lines of support and resistance that I've been looking at. So I have a green line right here. This goes back to June 30th, so that was 11 days ago. We're a little bit underneath that line right now. We spent a bunch of time above that. If you go back to June 26th, there's a line here at about 21,800. We did get all the way back up to that just near the end of the day on Friday. And the next line that we're looking to test is potentially this line here just under $23,000. However, over the weekend, we went in the opposite direction. We were over $22,000 at one point on Friday, and we're down to $20,436. So the first thing is we're still well above our long-term. This is our 4.5-year line of support at just under $20,000. That was the high from the previous Bitcoin bull cycle. So that was back in 2017. So we did dip below this for several days. As those of you who watch the channel, I've dug into this, and you can watch some previous videos to get some more detail on that. But we've twice dropped below this, and we've twice recovered. If we look at Bitcoin on the daily time frame, again, here's this green line at just under $23,000. You can see since June 16, which was not quite 1 month ago, it's July 11th now. We've been trading from this point down. We did flash down to 17,567 on June 18th, so that was several weeks ago now. We had a nice run up from about 18,700 on July 3rd to about 22,000 17,500 on July 8th. So that was a nice 5-day run up, but then it seems like we hit a wall there. We got rejected and we have been sliding backwards ever since. So where are we headed? I don't know, but I'm going to show you a few indicators, tell you what I think it looks like to me. This is on the daily time frame. So the daily RSI went from oversold, it double bottomed oversold, and then I drew an arrow up here, and then it was twice rejected at about neutral at about 51. It got there 2 days in a row here and then got rejected, and then 2 days in a row here and then got rejected, and then it went all the way down and reset. So all the while, all this momentum on the RSI led us to all this basically sideways activity for almost a month. And the reason for that is we just got to neutral and we never really got into positive territory. So for me, I consider most of the Bitcoin bull runs at over 50 on the daily RSI, and you can see we just simply got rejected there 2 times in a row. So even though we had all this momentum, we did not follow through and we didn't get any upside. Well, this arrow right here is an identical copy of this arrow. So we seem to be doing something very similar, not identical. You can see this is a little tighter, but we've been following along this upline. And once again, I've drawn a circle here. It has led to this absolute sideways activity. So we can see the last time that we went through this cycle, we did get rejected at 51 and then again at 51, and that led to another steep downturn in Bitcoin. So this time we have not yet confirmed or denied. We still seem to be on this path. We will see if we separate. We did have a down weekend and you can see some downward movement right here, but we're still basically along this arrow. I certainly would not be surprised to see a retest of this low at around 17,500 that we were at almost a month ago now. But at this point, I will say with the other indicators that I'm looking at, I would be surprised if we go lower than that. I think we continue to bounce along the bottom here, and we are starting to move away from the bottom in my opinion. And again, this has all been very volatile, so I would not be surprised at all if we retest some lows, but I don't think we're going to start hitting lower lows. That just doesn't look like what's happening, and I'm going to show you a few other indicators on why I think that. The first thing is we hit this low a month ago now, and we have not been anywhere near it really since. If I go to the weekly RSI, okay, I just quickly zoomed all the way out. The first thing I want to show you is, once again, on this run, we did hit the all-time low on the weekly RSI. We were down at around 26. We've never been there before since Bitcoin came into existence. So from a weekly time frame, this is the most oversold Bitcoin has ever been. There's only 2 other times, once in December of 2018 and once in January of 2015. Those are the only 2 other times Bitcoin ever even got into oversold territory at all. In a brief moment, we could flash crash down to anything. So actually, I do think that would be the healthiest thing that could happen. A flash crash to a new low on massive volatility, I think would be the final capitulation event. That is what everybody is looking for. I'm just not sure we're going to get it. We've just been in oversold territory for weeks and weeks and weeks. I think we've been bouncing along a bottom. I know I've been saying we've been bouncing along the bottom for over a month now, but when you look at this chart right here, you'll see that's exactly what's happening. These are weekly candles. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks that we've basically just been bouncing along the bottom sideways. So this may persist for some period of time, but I don't think we have another giant leg down. I will tell you, I'm probably in the minority on that. Most of you probably think we are going to go another leg down. That seems to be the consensus. There's still a lot of fear left. But having said that, I want to look at the fear and greed index because something big changed on that as well. Okay, this is a fear and greed index over the last 30 days. And what I did here is I drew a line. In all 8 of these days, Bitcoin was under 10 on the fear and greed index. So that's 8 days in a row under 10. We got as low as 6 on back-to-back days, and one of these 2 days was the days that we flash crashed down to 17,500. So this was an unprecedented stretch on the fear and greed index. We've never had 8 days in a row under 10. We've never had 4 days in a row under 10. So this was by far the record. But more importantly, you can see that since this period of time, we have been creeping up on the fear and greed index. We jumped up back over 10, and in fact back over 11 when we spent a bunch of time there, and then we jumped up to more like 20, and now we're at between 22 and 24. So from 7 to 24 is more than a triple. So that is still actually extreme fear. So, you know, it's not like we're in a great place, but they should have a new term for super extreme fear, because when you're down at 6s and 7s, that is a lot different than being at 22 and 24. So it just looks like we've gone away from this period. This was a one-time only, and again, this is the only time this has ever happened in the history of the fear and greed index. Having said that, this is only about 4.5 years old, so this does not span the entire life of Bitcoin. The last thing I want to look at is back on the 1 week time frame for Bitcoin. You can see that we we are getting closer. We're not there yet, but you can see the histogram has turned from dark red to light red, and we're moving in the right direction. These lines are getting closer. If we can get a bullish crossover, it was this bullish crossover right here that was way back in March, from March 14th through the end of March. So there was a 2 or 3 week run up where this is where Bitcoin ran up $15,000. And you can see this was about the smallest bullish crossover we've ever had. It lasted only 2 weeks and then we crossed back down. But even in that short period of time, Bitcoin had a $15,000 run up. So these bullish crossovers are very significant. The previous time before that, we ran from about 29,000 up to about 52,000 at or around this bullish crossover. So you can see big movements. On the weekly time frame, this doesn't happen very often, but when it does, we tend to get a nice push to the upside, even if it's inside of a downward trend like it is here. You can see since the beginning of the year, actually since our high in November, the trend has been down for 8 months now. But we did have one bullish crossover in the middle, and it gave us a very nice relief rally. So I continue to look for that. I think we continue to very slowly and painfully trend towards that. That's what this looks like to me. So we'll check back in tomorrow and see what's going on with the Bitcoin miners. And obviously CPI comes out on Wednesday, and that could be a day where if that number is no good, maybe that's our flash crash to the downside. However, if that number is better than expected, that could lead us into some upward pressure for once. So we'll have to wait and see. I do think either way, unless the number is shocking to the upside or the downside, I think that reaction will be very short-lived and we'll get back onto whatever path we seem to be on here. So I was going to go through Bitfarms and Core Scientific and basically look at their charts because those were the two that had the worst day, but I'm just going to summarize because I'm running long on this video. Those were the two companies that sold a bunch of Bitcoin in the month of June. Bitfarms sold 50% of their Bitcoin they had on their balance sheet, and Core Scientific sold almost 80% of the Bitcoin they had on their balance sheet. That was a massive shift. I think that has resulted in some of this short-term downward pressure. We will see. So again, thanks so much for watching. If you made it this far, remember to subscribe to the channel and smash the like button, and we will see you in tomorrow's video. Thanks.